Hey everybody, welcome back to flatcapeurotalk here. Just going to do kind of a quick sort of reaction to my World Cup predictions. It's not gone well. Really hasn't gone well. And it's also kind of been a very efficient sort of World Cup. I thought I was going to be able to take some time, kind of mull over all the ways that I got it wrong because I did a bit of research going into this World Cup and kind of didn't really do me much service. So maybe I could have probably saved myself some of the research going into the World Cup predictions video and maybe could have winged it a bit more. Perhaps could have gone with the more kind of normal convention sort of predictions. And I don't know. Maybe I could have done a bit better. I can't really tell yet. But I guess this is what this sort of video is for, is really to find out where I sort of went wrong. So everybody, do really appreciate you all for tuning in, for joining me on this one. It's not going to be too long. Just going to kind of take a look at how it all went wrong for me. And so I think it's going to be quite an enjoyable video for some people. But big up, Jacob. He's saying I'm hitting about 50% of my picks so far. I'm going to be lucky if I even hit that sort of ratio. I was able to put a few X marks on the areas that I was not able to get right. And it's pretty frequent, let's say, Jacob. But good to see you in the chat, my man. Vamos Argentina, says Paro, and it's good to see them kind of starting to click together. Paro, I felt like in that Saudi Arabia game, we maybe thought that all that sort of pressure on the Argentina team to be the convincing leaders, to be the convincing winners of this tournament, maybe got to their heads, but now they're starting to click together. You can see how they can turn it on at any stage when they need to. Messi also seems to turn it on still at any stage when he needs to, whenever things are getting close. Even with when Australia scored, even just now, I felt like Messi, you could tell he was just turning it on immediately in case they needed another goal. And if it wasn't for Lautaro missing all those sitters, they probably could have scored two or three more with how good Messi was. So they definitely are certainly back in, I think, a lot of people's prediction as being the team to look out for. But big yourself up, my man. Good to see Shamu in the chat as well. You absolute legend. Welsh gal in here too. Big up, Welsh gal. Really appreciate you tuning in. And then the World Cup predictions. It was a good vibes of a show. I think really was a nice show with Dave, but uh, the predictions did not go well. Shamu certainly did not. Big up, my brother, Paro, absolute legend. But let's get straight into it, everybody. I'm going to take a look at my original sort of kind of golden boot, dark horse kind of predictions that I put up in these sort of kind of banners here. I went with Neymar as the golden boot. That kind of went wrong, maybe just because the injuries. So I might cut myself a bit of slack there, but I could have taken a look at Cody Gakpo, I guess. I could have taken a look at maybe the likes of Rashford, Mbappe. Maybe could have been an easier prediction for myself. Maybe Mbappe could have been an easier prediction. But I went with Neymar, and that definitely didn't work out because of that injury he picked up. My dark horses I had were Serbia and Japan. Serbia definitely fell flat on their face, and I had a bit of bias with that one with the itches, but a lot of people had Serbia as their dark horse. They certainly looked like a really good team on paper, but on grass, they actually weren't that great at all. I think that has more to do with the coaching. Stojkovic didn't really impress me very much as a manager. I really did think that Serbia team could have played a whole lot better if maybe they had some better management, if maybe they had some better coaching there, because just felt like they were kind of all a bit disorganized, but a lot of players did stick out to me. Pavlovic, I thought, looked really good for them. Left-sided center back, left-footed too. He looked pretty talented for me. But Serbia as my dark horse prediction, yeah, they kind of definitely failed me there. Let's say they definitely failed me there. But Japan definitely did not. I think Japan absolutely justified me with that dark horse prediction, and it's good to see them making it out to the knockout rounds and proving probably a lot of other people right with the dark horses. Maybe these were a bit probably conventional. Maybe a lot of people had these as their kind of two sort of dark horses to make it out of the groups and upset some people. And these two teams too, like they definitely had to work hard to get out. Serbia definitely did not do it, and they were in a tough group. But Japan, absolutely. I mean, credit to them getting out of such a tough group like that. So I guess I got 1 for 2 there. Dark horse to win it all, I said, is Denmark. Really dreadful, if you ask me. And we'll talk about that later, but just thought I embarrassed myself a bit further and put that up on the screen there for everybody. Breakout stars, I went for like super like hipster choices, maybe really wanted to sort of like point to really out there sort of predictions that nobody could have gotten. And again, kind of fell a bit flat on my face there. I went with Nicholas Jackson. I believe he played over for the Senegal team. Considering that Mane was hurt, I thought he'd step in and be a good player for them, but he hasn't really, I think, been given really many minutes at all. So that's been kind of a bit of a disappointment there. And then Mukoko, I thought would be given more minutes, but that really also didn't do too well either. Perhaps in the next World Cup, he could be given some more time. But yeah, that prediction didn't do too well. So there you are, everybody. Some of my initial predictions. And we'll take a look at the groups now, see how I did there. Kubo fan, good to see you in here. Absolute breakout star. Matoma and Muhammad Kudus have been. Muhammad Kudus for me, though, Kubo fan, I feel like he's been, how would I put it? He's been interesting with the fact that he breaks past his man. He's able to skim past his man, I think, at will and do it really easily. But he doesn't really work hard, I think, to get the ball. It felt like when he's occupying the middle, he doesn't really work too hard to try to get into the areas to pick it up. But when he does get it, he's absolutely brilliant with it. And he does have a really good finish on him, too. Matoma, I wish was given more playing time by the Japanese manager, if you ask me. But big yourself up, my man. Good to see you, Par Miguel. And yeah, absolutely right. What I actually would say, Zara Spurs. Yeah, Zara Spurs is in the house. Good to see you. Ecuador really actually were a team I fell in love with kind of this tournament. Zara Spurs. I can see that sort of talent in that team again. I can see kind of that golden generation of players that you have there. Thought you guys were really well coached. Thought you guys were really well organized. You guys did really well to get to the final game. Kind of everything went according to plan for you guys going into that final game, and it just, I guess it all just sort of slipped up in some sort of manner. But I think Ecuador, I anticipate seeing you back into it. Zara Spurs, I anticipate seeing you guys back in the next World Cup. You really were convincing in a lot of ways. The guy that I really liked was actually, what's his name? Gonzalo Plata. I think he plays over for the Sounders, or maybe right winger, the whatever player that you had over on the right, left-footed player. He was absolutely brilliant. I thought he was a real talented player to take a look at. So definitely that was a good one for sure. Another one I would take a look at is or sorry, the actual predictions that I made versus or my predictions versus the actuals up on screen. I was trying to explain kind of how bad the graphics were. I was trying to get this done in time because they're being very efficient about this World Cup, if you ask me. I don't know what you guys think, but the way that it's been kind of so sort of I don't know, like no breaks in between anything has been kind of difficult. And so I guess this was the best time to sort of come out with this predictions video. Senegal, though, I kind of put them at second just because I thought they would be a better team than Ecuador, despite how talented and young that Ecuadorian team had been. I sort of got proven right with that, but I feel like Ecuador were probably the team I enjoyed more from this group. I actually, by the end of this kind of group stage of play, I wanted Ecuador to be to be the second place team, to be the team that pushed through. I didn't really care about my predictions anymore. I felt kind of a bit in love with that Ecuador team. Like I said, Zara Spurs, good to see you, Ribsy. Really appreciate you tuning in, my man. Hopefully all is well with you, and hopefully you're recovering from the maybe just recovering from a great run, Ribsy. I mean, nothing really to be too ashamed about, or nothing to be too sad about, kind of like the Americans, if you ask me, my man. My other predictions when it came to, or maybe let me finish up, sorry. Qatar, I kind of thought wouldn't be the worst team in the entire tournament. I think they ended up being kind of the worst team really in the entire tournament in some ways, just because I don't know, they just didn't exactly show up in any of these games or really challenge anybody, if you ask me. And then also, I don't know, they were kind of in a slightly easy group compared to maybe some of the other groups. Whereas maybe other teams, like I thought the Aussies or the Saudi Arabians would maybe be one of the worser teams kind of in the tournament. It actually, I think, did end up being kind of Qatar. So I guess I try to maybe overthink that sort of prediction by maybe calling out them as not being the absolute worst in the tournament, but I think they might have been the absolute worst in this tournament, unless I'm wrong with that. The Dutch, they've looked really good. I don't really think they were like totally convincing throughout this tournament, though, in any way, just because in the group stage, like I said, they were coming up against, I would say, maybe slightly easier opponents, and they didn't really play too well, I think, in any of the games. They took their chances and they took their moments against the USA. Even today, they took their chances and they took their moments, the Dutch. So they've been very effective. They've been very ruthless, but have they been a very fun and exciting team to watch, the Dutch? I'm not really sure of that yet. So definitely one to keep an eye on with maybe how effective they've been in their defense. They've definitely been keeping clean sheets, been very good at not really getting too rattled in the back. But they're not also, like I said, the most exciting or fun team to watch either. Good to see Ribsy saying, "Yeah, Jack, round of 16 was better than I expected for Australia. Losing to Argentina isn't a surprise for us." Yeah, I think it felt like us with the Dutch to a degree too, Ribsy, where it's like when it comes to free hits, like that's what happens when you have a free hit. You're not going to win, right? You kind of have no expectations going into it. You might be surprised, and in the case of the Americans today, when it came to the free hit of coming up against the Dutch, I think we kind of got humbled a little bit in some ways when it came to it, and there's no shame in that. We still, have a lot to be looking forward to, and there's still a long way to go too. But with how you guys made the effort, considering how good Argentina look when they're able to click together, Ripsy, I think you guys really did make an excellent account of yourselves. Big up, my man. Good to see you in here. Good to see you, Mojo Matzi, as well. Hopefully, you're keeping well. Absolute legend, Welsh gal. But I'm going to keep moving on here, everybody. And like I said, kind of make the best use of your time here with these reactions of the predictions because the first video was a bit long. But actual predictions there versus my predictions got it right. This is one of the only ones I really got right there. Group B, when we're taking a look at Group B, I don't know, like maybe I have a bit of bias in thinking that the Americans sort of sometimes overhype or maybe over exaggerate how good we are or how good we might be. And I think I got that wrong, definitely, in this case. I think we absolutely matched the hype. I think we absolutely matched a lot of the, at least some people's, kind of expectations. I think a lot of the maybe more casual, maybe general expectations of the average American probably was met in how we played. I think we could have done better with goals. Like it felt like we created a lot, but we either missed some good chances with maybe some poor finishing, or we just didn't always have that final pass to really unlock teams. But I thought we really have made an excellent account of ourselves in so many ways. We really showed to have one of the best midfields, I thought, in the tournament too, which is definitely fun and good to see that that midfield is young and exciting, and the depth of also substitutions like with Aronson and Gio Reyna definitely helped a lot, and also shows how good we could be in the future too. Wales ended up actually maybe being one of the candidates, actually, when you think about it, is maybe one of the worser teams of this tournament. But I don't know. They were in a very, very difficult tournament as well. But it felt like Aaron Ramsey really let them down in a lot of ways. I think Gareth Bale, I don't know how much we expected of him. I think he probably needed some help in this sort of tournament, but maybe someone like an Aaron Ramsey sort of kind of let them down, I thought. And some of the kind of old guard players were kind of letting maybe Wales down. And hopefully we do see them in the next tournament with a younger crop of players like Brendan Johnson, etc., that could carry the team. But it is maybe time for some of the older players to be sort of moved on from the national team. But they deserved, I thought, to be given kind of their last games. I kind of thought about it that way, maybe. And I know Welsh Gal, if you're still in the chat, let me know what you think of this. But it is your first or it is your second World Cup, and when you do look at, I don't know, like maybe the ceremonial aspect of it. Like if you did want to maybe go with a better balance of young and old, that could have probably given you a better chance to progress. But at the same time, like you got to probably thank the all the old and veteran players that gave you this like opportunity to go to the World Cup, that kind of worked so hard to get there over these years and over these various tournaments. So maybe they, even if they were, let's say, worse than what they were a few years ago, perhaps you just kind of give it to them because they sort of earned it. I don't know what you think of that, Welsh Scout, but I sort of, out of maybe sentimental sort of appreciation, you do maybe give it to the old guard players no matter what. But I don't know, maybe a better mix of young and old could have probably done the Welsh a bit better. I'm not so sure though, but definitely I thought a pretty poor showing from the Welsh, disappointingly. Really think Timber is a talented young center back to start ahead of Delict is impressive. Maybe Spurs. Yeah, he looked probably a lot better than Delict as sort of a member of that back three, right? He was playing, I think, as a right-sided center back in Louis Van Gaal's back three. Looked probably like he could be a bit more mobile, come out in the defense a bit more, be more aggressive, kind of like Romero is in our back three, than maybe someone like Delict is. Whereas Delict maybe suits better the middle. I'm not so sure. He's also, I think, would probably be challenging Van Dyke for kind of that middle of the back three sort of kind of position. So there's definitely that to think about too. But absolutely right, Foggy Foam. Absolutely right. Big up, my man. But when we're looking at also Group B, Iran, I think we're maybe they were good and bad in different ways. I think Sardar Azmoun, when actually playing alongside Taremi, was their best option. They did look really good together and holding up play and also combining well. Sardar Azmoun, I really found fun watching this tournament. He's kind of one of those strikers that I think has always been under the radar for some time. As we all know, people have been watching this channel for a long time know that I've really liked this guy. I think he was one of the first scout reports I ever did on this channel too, kind of alongside Kavicha, and I think he made a good account of himself this World Cup. But these sort of predictions, I think I just got them kind of blatantly wrong for the most part. Kind of just underestimated Iran, overestimated Wales, and underestimated the Americans. It really was pretty poor showing for me. So pretty much only one right there. And again, when you look at this with Group C, Argentina, of course, I think everybody was going to get that one. Mexico, it was a bit more kind of bias that came into this one with Mexico versus Poland. When you kind of look at the last day, I felt like Mexico probably deserved it more than the Polish. They made more of an effort to actually score. Polish have played some of the most negative football I've seen this tournament. It really was dreadful, especially on the last day. I also felt like the Argentinians really were kind of disappointing once they went 2-0 up against the Polish or whatever scoreline it was, right? They easily could have scored more, and they were just missing chance after chance after chance, which would have helped Mexico get through and would have helped Mexico advance instead of Poland. I think Poland really were one of the most boring and horrible teams to watch this tournament. Really made no effort to score whatsoever. Saudi Arabia definitely were really well coached. I thought Ren Harvard or whatever his name was definitely was a guy I should have actually accounted for when it came to doing kind of my research on this team. I didn't really find too much on them apart from the fact that he was a good coach, but I really underestimated that a good coach can have such an effect on a team like that. And I think Saudi Arabia really should also hold their heads high, considering I think how well they played and how much trouble they caused teams, and they really upset also the party for Mexico. They made it really difficult on Argentina. They just sort of had a fun tournament, I think. Saudi Arabia, did they deserve more? I'm not sure, but they definitely just had a fun tournament. Let's say, and probably exceeded expectations, at least exceeded my expectations. I thought they'd be one of the worst teams there, and they caused people trouble in different ways. That's certainly true. But Poland ended up getting through, so I got that one wrong. But yeah, a lot of bias I think came through to me when it came to sort of those predictions. Just because I do kind of like Mexico, and I did kind of want them to go through, and so maybe a bit of bias came through on those ones. My other predictions here of Group D, if we're taking a look at that, Denmark. I just thought that Denmark were going to carry on all the momentum that they had from the Euros. And considering that maybe players like Dolberg have grown up a bit more and Lindstrom has come into the team, they also had Andreas Skov Olsen. I think there's like another player I might be missing out on that's in that team now. It's not just Yusuf Poulsen and Brentwaite anymore that would be in the team. And maybe it was the coaching, maybe it was the manager, but they just really were dead, and they really were kind of just poor to watch. Damsgaard, of course, like was going to carry in that form, I thought, and everything. It just really was a poor showing from Denmark in a lot of ways. Maybe it was the coaching. Maybe it really was like the manager who just let them down tactically and really just didn't inspire the side in any way. I heard they weren't carrying in good form maybe into it, so I probably should have taken that into account. But like I said, I just thought that they would kind of come together and use that sort of bit of quality that they have in various areas. I think they have quality in the back line, they have quality in midfield, and I think, have a bit more quality than they did last time around up in the attack too. And yeah, they just let me down this time around, the Danish, and I'm not really sure why. Maybe, like I said, maybe more having to do with the coaching or whatnot. They played a pretty dead sort of 3-4-3. It looked like, and didn't really get much out of it. Cornelius didn't really look too effective. Eriksson really wasn't too effective. Højbjerg didn't even see too effective either. They just sort of kind of were stifled by most teams, and probably were the biggest disappointment this tournament. I think Denmark, at least for me, just because I had them going as far as I think I had them go as far as the final. Embarrassingly, really did, because the route that they would have had if they had finished first in my sort of route, and with how I also looked at the other league, or the other groups, excuse me, I had them going as far as the final. Really embarrassingly, I really thought that they were sort of the dark horse to maybe win it all. I think ultimately they were going to get beaten by Argentina, but it really was a ludicrous prediction of mine. It was kind of a fun prediction of mine that I sort of thought was going to be really fun to do. I even put like 5 quid on it, and I never make any sort of bets whatsoever, like online and everything. It was the one little bet I did make was to put a bit of money on Denmark to go as far as the final. And really just, of course, the moment that I do it, they fall flat on its face. It's just why I don't even do that sort of thing, is because I feel like the luck runs against me, but certainly an embarrassing one. And we're gonna have to move on. We're gonna have to move on there. But yeah, Denmark really disappointed me in a lot of ways. The Vikings, and I don't really know why. I can't really explain it as of yet, but perhaps it was just the tactics and the formation and the way they were set up really wasn't the right way to go about it. France, they definitely probably looked a lot better than I thought in ways. Yes and no. Like, I don't know. Like Didier Deschamps, I don't think is a good manager. I think he'll let them down in some way, in some shape or form. But they do have the superpowers of Mbappe, and they still have the best squad depth of the entire tournament. And so I think they'll be just fine. I really don't care much about France and kind of their hopes, really. Tunisia, I think, made a pretty good account of themselves. I'm glad I actually got that one right. I did think that they would be okay this tournament, but I guess I thought it would be Australia that would end up been the worst in this whole group by like a long stretch, and I totally got that one wrong. And I really needed to eat some humble pie when it came to that prediction. Absolutely got that one wrong. Cameron over from the Cheese Room gave me kind of a bit of insight on the Aussie team. And he said the one thing that he thought that could get this team through that maybe a lot of people wouldn't account for, and this is before a ball was even kicked, he told me this, is that Aussie spirit, that solidarity, that hard work, that camaraderie, that sort of willingness to work for one another that it isn't really, let's say, or is strong with the Australians, is strong with that team. And I didn't really account for that. And I didn't really, let's say, take that as seriously as I probably should have. And the Australians went through, and they also even benefited from a really good form from a former Air to Berlin player and Matthew Leckie as well, which is always really fun to see. But yeah, that's kind of my breakdown of Group D. Probably the one which I really just got the worst, because really just did absolutely dreadfully on this one. But big up, everybody. Good to see you all in the chat as well. My predictions for Group E. Germany, again, heavy bias going into this one, but I still got to hold my head in shame here. I thought Germany, considering that it was Hansi Flick, who I think was a bit of the mastermind behind the 2014 World Cup win in many ways. I think he was a bit of a mastermind behind that Brazil win, if I'm not mistaken. Obviously was super successful with the very short time he had over at Bayern. I really do rate Hansi Flick as a manager, but it looked like he was getting it wrong in a few ways this tournament. And also Germany were disappointing in a few ways in the fact that I just thought we all knew they weren't going to be good in defense, and we all know that they were going to be capable of leaking some goals. But like, I kind of feel like with them that they created a ton of chances, and if they create a ton of chances and finish them, then they're probably just going to outscore most opponents and just make it quite hard on teams to really find the motivation to get back if they're 2-0 down, 3-0 down within, like, let's say 30 minutes. And even if the Germans have a leaky defense, they still created, I felt like, in each and every game, a ton of chances. It was just they couldn't put on the finishing boots really with anyone. No one really could finish. I felt like Jamal Musiala was probably the best player over each and every game, but felt like after each and every mazy and beautiful 20-yard run, skidding past man after man, he just would shoot it over the bar, hit it off the bar, hit the post, whatever it would be, but it just could not finish. He probably should have been the top scorer when I really looked at it. Jamal Musiala, he had so many beautiful chances that he kind of created on his own, because that's how good he is. But Germany really, I thought, missed a bazillion chances. And if you're not finishing, then you're going to get punished. That's what the World Cup is. And they rightfully finished, I think, where they did, Germany. So Japan, we did have going through no matter what. It was kind of a bit of a toss up for me between the Germans and the Spanish, but kind of my bias towards kind of wanting the Germans to advance over the Spanish obviously came through here. So I came up with some reasons for why they would. And of course, got proven wrong. And Spain, I think, did look like a convincing team in a lot of ways. Maybe they benefited from being able to play Costa Rica first because Costa Rica in the first game really did not look good at all in any shape or form. And then started to look better, let's say, throughout the tournament. Yeah, after each game was played. But Spain, yeah, definitely deserved to go through maybe on the balance of play when you look at it. And I don't know if they played nearly as poorly as maybe Germany did against Japan. I didn't get to watch the game, I'll be honest, so I can't really say that too with too much conviction or kind of, let's say, I don't know, confidence. But let's go into Group F there. Group F, Belgium, I thought would go through, but I didn't really rate them at all. Like in this tournament, that's kind of why I had them at second. I had a feeling that they would slip up. I had a feeling that they weren't really going to be that great, but absolutely more so, that was more the case than I really thought. In the fact that I think they might have been actually secretly the worst team in this whole group. Canada really did not deserve to be fourth. I mean, having 0 points at the end of 3 games just felt wrong. Really did feel wrong in the case of Canada. I thought they played better in each game than Belgium did on the real balance of play. Thought they really played a nice, progressive, fun sort of kind of style, kind of similar to the Americans in that it was really, yeah, like I said, positive, progressive, exciting, and it wasn't negative. They didn't put every man behind the ball or anything. They were a fun team to watch, and think they deserve so much more than what they got, Canada. So I don't know. Like it felt like 0 points. Fourth was just not what they deserved, if you ask me. Not what they deserved. But in the case of Morocco, I had respect for Morocco. Like I knew that they had a really good set of players, but to me, it just with Croatia and Belgium in the same group, felt like this was a tough group, and maybe an easier group for Morocco. They would have advanced, but didn't. Maybe I was wrong. Underestimated them slightly. I did respect Morocco plenty when I did give my predictions, but I just thought that maybe the nous and the talent of Belgium would kind of just ring through, and Croatia, as Shamu knows, we never doubt the itches, and the itches were always going to advance through. And I feel like when we do our predictions later, Shamu, we'll see how much I rate them later. But let me take a sip of water. But I never doubted them, Shamu. Never doubted the itches, my friend. Absolutely, Canada deserved more. I think Para Miguel, absolutely right. Going on to Group G here, Brazil. I think everybody had them first. Serbia, the other set of itches, really disappointed me in a lot of ways. Like I said, maybe earlier, I thought Stojkovic probably maybe not a great coach, or maybe not the right coach for Serbia, because they seemed a bit disorganized. They seemed a bit disjointed. They were conceding goals pretty easily. It felt like, and they did have a lot of injuries. I do recognize and think also maybe not a lot of people knew that they did have a lot of injuries in this tournament. But I don't know. They could have played a whole lot better in my eyes, and maybe that had a lot of it to do with the coaching. They were carrying good form going into this tournament, and they were a huge letdown in a lot of ways. Switzerland, with the Kanji, Granit Xhaka, Embolo, some other players, you can kind of see why they were maybe as good as they looked in certain moments, because they do have a bit more experience, I think, in these World Cups than the likes of a Serbia or than the likes of a Cameroon. And so I don't know. I just wanted to see Serbia go through. It's kind of like Germany, where I'm sort of going to rationalize it because I want them to. So I'm going to come up with good reasons or come up with bad reasons, whatever it may be. I'm going to come up with reasons for them to try to get through. And I don't know. Switzerland, I guess, just sort of humbled the likes of Serbia in some ways, and Serbia just also just disappointed. Just really did disappoint. Cameroon, I wasn't really able to catch too much of them, so I can't really comment on it. But the fact that they did even end up finishing ahead of the likes of Serbia as well on the grand scheme of things really does show, I think, how poorly Serbia showed up for themselves. So I'm very disappointed in the itches there. But yeah, incredible, good fight back. Absolutely right. Welshcom, maybe kind of forgetting about maybe all the games at this stage. Maybe what's even happened. Group H here. Uruguay, again, just so many misses for me. Just so many misses. Uruguay, I thought, would be one of the best teams in this group with Federico Valverde, with the likes of Bentancur. I thought Suarez and Cavani be great. Nunez too. I just thought they'd just be a good team going into this tournament. I mean, Oliveira has been looking good this season. Jimenez, Coates, good center backs. And it's just a historically great team, Uruguay, and they have a huge history as well. I just thought they'd be so much better than what they were, and they were a bit unlucky, but it was pretty hilarious to see Ghana kind of take them down in the last game. I'm kind of all for it, and then the way that it went down, where Ghana sort of took Uruguay with them. I'm actually happy for it, and to see Sonny go through and to see this happen in this sort of way. I think we all knew Portugal were going to go through no matter what. I have full confidence in them going through. I just sort of went for a bold prediction with maybe Uruguay somehow finishing ahead, but to see Sonny get through with Portugal it really is amazing and honestly incredible because South Korea, I thought they were a better team than Ghana, definitely deserved to finish ahead of Ghana. And the fact that they lost to Ghana was really, I think, heartbreaking considering they just looked like a better team than them in that game. And maybe they just sort of kind of let some goals kind of go against them in the run of play. And then in Uruguay, good tactical battle with them. And then Portugal kind of got beautiful goals towards the end. Really credit to South Korea. Definitely an incredible run as well. So big up to South Korea. Absolute legends. And we're going to take a look at now the group stages here and kind of make some predictions there and call it an evening here, everybody. Let me know what you thought of my group stage predictions. Actually, maybe I'll bring that back up here. Sorry, everybody. Let's take a quick look at that again and maybe just count and just see maybe how poorly we've done here. So again, Group H didn't really go too well for us here, about 3 wrong in that case. I'm going to count the fact that Portugal is right, just because I think if I get a team that advances through right, I'm going to sort of, I don't know, I'm just going to count it maybe just to be nice to myself. So 3 wrong there. 3 wrong there, and Group G, really a big mess in this case too, just a big mess all around. When it came to Group F, you could say sort of like had the right ideas, maybe sort of, but I don't know. Belgium probably deserved to finish 4th, if you ask me. On the likes of Group E, the bias for Germany comes through. I'm going to come up with a reason to think that they deserve to go through, but they ultimately did get humbled by the likes of Japan in the second half with how they didn't finish their chances. And they got absolutely punished by Japan for not finishing their chances. I thought Germany, Spain, I think in moments they looked like the better team. Spain also, I don't know. It was just a really fun tactical battle. I feel like both teams could be happy with the draw. And then Costa Rica, they just didn't get the job done. They took their foot off the gas. So I think Germany, rightfully so, didn't finish or didn't advance, but got that one wrong too. Denmark was the big one that I really absolutely blew and just really just a howler of prediction that I got wrong. Oh Lord. And Australia, all credit to them. I don't know how many people did have Australia going through in this, but if you did, all credit to you. Especially if you weren't an Aussie and you had Australia going through. Definitely very, very impressive. France, I think we all knew that was going to happen, so I'm going to give credit there. Tunisia made a good account for themselves, but Denmark, yeah, what a blow. Mexico, like I said, absolutely love Mexico, and so a bit of bias was going to come through there. I was going to kind of come up with reasons for maybe why they could advance, and I think they got close. I think they played slightly more attractive football, definitely much more housery than the likes of Poland, but. I don't know. They didn't really look that great either. I would expect them to get knocked out quite quickly, even if they did get it advanced into the knockout rounds. And then Saudi Arabia finished 4th, but played a lot better than I expected them to. Slide 2, or let's for Group B. England. I guess everybody had them first. USA, I severely sort of underestimated, maybe because I don't like to be caught overestimating the Americans and being too sort of kind of delusional about them. And kind of maybe ate some humble pie in that regard, maybe by kind of realizing that they could reach that potential and they could meet the expectations. And they certainly did. And then Wales definitely kind of let me down. I guess I just got them wrong in a lot of ways. But certainly you could say Wales was the big disappointment, I think, sadly, of that group. And then Group A, I actually weirdly got completely correct, but I fell in love with that Ecuador team, like I'll say, and I was sort of disappointed they didn't actually get through. I really liked watching that Ecuador team, and I hope to see them back in the next tournament. But let's do some predictions here. Of course, we see the likes of Netherlands advancing through. Ooh, I think I can do it this way. Or maybe that's more in the way. Here we are. We see Netherlands going through. I think they deserved it on the grand scheme of things. I mean, they were much more ruthless than the Americans. They also kind of unlocked us with different kind of patterns of play more than I think the Americans did. I think the Americans really just, I mean, we worked really hard to get up the field. We really stood toe to toe with them in a lot of ways. I'm really proud of like our confidence against them, but I don't know. We were outclassed in a few regards, especially Cody Gakpo and Depay. It just felt like they really outclassed our defense and really just caused us a lot of problems. They just couldn't lose the ball. They just Cody Gakpo and Depay just would hold it up so easily and just caused us so many issues. And then they were ruthless with the finishing as well. The Dutch and were able to carve through us a bit more easy, or a bit easier at times, I thought, than we were able to carve through them. But we missed some good chances too. We did miss some good chances, and we probably will rue those chances. And the Dutch were much more clinical with their chances than we were with ours, and that's, I think, how you look at it. But if I were to look between the Dutch and the Argentinians, I guess I think there's really only one team that you look at. It's going to be the Argentinians. The Dutch, though, have a really good defense. You look at it, right, with Jurien Timber, like you said before. Van Dijk is a good player through the middle, I think. And I'm not sure who they played on the left. I'm forgetting now as the left-sided center back, but they really did look like a solid defense with really good forwards and Cody Gakpo and Depay. I think they should go with that again against the Argentinians and see how that goes for them. Japan and Croatia. It's tough here because Japan in the second half, they're a bit of a second half team. They're almost kind of like Spurs, where they will really kind of hold up shop, shut up shop in the first half, try to sort of squeeze a team and make it really difficult for them. But the second half is where they kind of throw on a lot more of their talented attacking players like Ritsu Doan, who is it as well? Matoma, of course, over at Brighton. And once I think they throw on Ritsu Doan too, I think they really do become a lot more dangerous. So will the Croatians kind of suffer? Because in the second half against the Belgians, they really probably deserved to concede. I think Croatia, they were getting really lucky. But it's not like Belgium deserved, I think, to go through. So I think that was I was happy that happened because I think Belgium were by far one of the worst teams in that group. This is tough between Croatia and Japan. I think Croatia will dominate the ball, but this is the thing. Japan have had some of the lowest possession figures in this whole tournament. Have had no problem, being without the ball. And like we said, if they're able to get to the second half, they become so much more dangerous. Kovacic, Modric, Brozovic are absolutely class, and when they turn it on, can be unbelievable. I do sort of have Japan as I think I've given Japan a lot of hype, and I have said that here's how I think Japan could win this. I think Japan could win this. I'm going to go with Croatia because I've kind of gone with vibes and the fact that I go with the teams that I do really like and support. I love the Itches. I will be rooting for the Itches. But Japan, as we saw in the very beginning, everybody, are my dark horses. They really are. They were one of my two dark horses alongside Serbia. And I wouldn't be surprised if they beat Japan or Japan if they beat Croatia. So, I hype them up in every way I could, just sort of just show that I'm not disregarding them. And probably, if I were complete neutral in this when it comes to love for both teams, I probably wouldn't maybe go for Japan there with how convincing they've been against these bigger teams. And they've been so good in the second half. But I have to back the Itches, and I have to back the world-class midfielders and Itches that they have to choose from. Between Brazil and Korea, I think there's really only one team to choose here. Korea have looked good defensively with Kim Min Jae and others, and also Cho has been a brilliant striker. If Sonny can turn it on, then maybe they have a much better chance, but he's been a bit inconsistent, I think, this tournament. And Brazil really have been one of the more convincing teams. So I'm going to go with Brazil there. It would be a shock to me, actually. Whereas with Japan, it wouldn't be as much of a shock if they were to advance. I'd be a bit more shocked if Korea were to advance there. But do let me know in the chat what you think of that. England, Senegal. I think it is going to be England here. Sadly, I'm not really going to talk too much about this. Senegal, even with Ecuador, they sort of looked kind of just as good with Ecuador, if not worse, I thought maybe. So I don't know. It feels like that should be easy work maybe for the English. If it's not, then I'd be having some question marks over whether they could actually win this tournament. France and Poland, it's going to be a dreadful game, but I think Mbappe eventually will sort of break them down. Poland have just been a dreadful team to watch when it comes to how they try to go about it. They've been very, very negative, putting every man behind the ball and whatnot, and just sort of hoofing it long to Lewandowski and just letting him chase it. Really has been not very fun. A very geopolitical battle between Morocco and Spain. I said this the other day. It'd be like if Sarah Palin's Alaska was playing Russia, because Morocco, they can see Spain from their house, and Spain can see Morocco from their house. And it's a bit kind of a similar sort of battle between neighbors here. Morocco have looked really good, and I think they might be really up for this one. And Spain, I don't know. They sort of are a team that kill you with 1,000 passes, a death by 1,000 passes. They've been dangerous. They've got some really good goals. They're Morata. They've been lethal. They've Pedri, Gavi, unbelievable. But I'm going to go with Morocco in this one just because I think they might be a bit more inspired. I don't know. They've come together. I'm just going to go with Morocco just for vibes, just because I do want to see Spain and their party and the fiesta over there get ruined. Portugal and Switzerland, it's interesting because Switzerland, I think, are a lot better than people might give them credit for, because that midfield of Granit Xhaka, what's it, Remo Freuler is the other one, I think, too, in that midfield. And then Jabril So. It's a good midfield. It's a strong midfield with good wingbacks. They got Xherdan Shaqiri looked really good in the last game too, and Bolo looked great. Portugal, though, like they have world class players. It's interesting. It's interesting. Switzerland could, Akanji's been brilliant. I think I'm going to go with Portugal, but it's going to be a tough one here. I'm just going to take a look at the chat and just welcome in some people. Just going to say hello to Paul Beatty. Good to see you in here, Paul. Hopefully you're keeping well. Mick Harmlock, the absolute legend as well. Good to see you in here. Frank Lost, if I haven't said hello, really good to see you in here. Zoe, good to see Zoe. Hopefully all is well with you. Just making sure I'm not missing anybody. Really appreciate you all for tuning in. Do smash that like button if you haven't already. But I'm going to continue on this with these predictions, because last time it was a bit over 2 hours, and I don't want that to happen again here. I do drone on a bit too much here. Let's go to Croatia, Brazil. This is where I think it ends for the itches. It just does, Shamu. It ends for the itches here for us. I think Brazil will probably outclass Croatia in a few ways, not in midfield. I think it'll be a fascinating midfield battle between Croatia and Brazil. It's just probably more in those kind of wide areas where they have that depth of wingers and pace. How will the Croatians deal with it? And will they be able to play their game, or will they have to play a very defensive brand of football? And when we've seen Croatia play a bit more defensive, I don't think they play too well. And they don't really have a lot of pace up top either. I think maybe their best chance against the Brazilians would be playing Orsic and maybe Kramaric, or Orsic and Pekovic. Shamu, let me know what you think, my man. But I think this is the end of the road here for the Itches, and a good run for them, if you ask me. England and France. This is interesting. Huge rivalry, you could say, too, in some ways. I don't really feel like they play each other too much, England and France, unless I'm wrong. Uh, I just can't see the English go this far, and I'd love to see the party end early. So let's give it to the French. Mbappe could definitely terrorize that back line. And even if they know about it, even if they know about the threats that Mbappe poses, he'll just get you with one moment. He's even had atrocious games I've seen before in moments, but he'll just still get you at the same pace in behind. And if they play it at the right moment, if they do it at the right time, he's absolutely devastating. And I could see that happening to the English. Morocco and Portugal. It feels like what's funny is that Switzerland have a great chance to go pretty far. And this is why I also had the Danish going so far in this tournament, everybody, is because this sort of side of the bracket is not that it's this side of the tournament, or this side of the bracket is not, it's not inconceivable to have seen maybe the Danish go quite far. But in this case, I think you just have to give it to the Portuguese. But again, a bit of a geopolitical rivalry with Portugal, Spain, Morocco. It's quite fun, actually. And then France and Portugal, an epic meetup again from the Euros final. I don't know. Portugal seemed to not, it just seems like France for me. I think it is going to be France. I think they probably just have been here before. I think they have slightly better squad than Portugal in certain ways. And I don't know. They've done it before, and they've been in these situations before. And Portugal, I don't think are well managed. Neither of France, though. Like I don't think either team are really well managed, if you ask me. So this is a tough one. It's actually weirdly I think might not be as good of a game as Argentina and Brazil, but that's probably maybe not a surprise to anybody. I'm going to go with France there, and then between Argentina and Brazil, I originally went with Argentina as the winner. Should I stick with Argentina as the winner? Brazil have been more convincing to me in some ways, but it is kind of that those fullback areas. Sometimes Eder Militao is capable of mistake. Argentina also have had maybe some sketchy moments still like this tournament. It's been interesting for them. It's sort of Messi has developed superpowers when they do get in trouble, though. And that's what I'm starting to think about is that when Messi has found himself in trouble, when he thinks that his team maybe are starting to take their foot off the gas pedal, he just turns it on for them. He really does. So I'm going to stick with Argentina. I'm going to stick with my original conviction and say that they win it all. So there you are, everybody. Um, I don't really need no score predictions. So there you are, everybody. That's the end of the predictions video. The end of my reactions. As you saw before, I did not do well. A lot of humble pie to be eaten for myself. I got so many wrong, just so many wrong. And maybe it just shows that if you do a lot of research, a lot of kind of in depth sort of kind of looking into when going into these tournaments, sometimes that can be your detriment. Maybe I've overthought a lot of this. Perhaps I did too much research in this tournament. It came to my mistake. But everybody, I really do appreciate you all tuning into this one. Appreciate you all kind of joining me along and at least joining me live. I kind of didn't think this many people would come in and say hello. I kind of thought you would be sort of maybe watching it in the next day or something like that. But to see so many in here really is very, very kind of you guys. So hit that like button on the way out. And maybe if you missed any of it, feel free to watch it back. I wanted to keep it under an hour so that I think some people could watch it back and see how terrible I have done here. But everybody, I really do appreciate it. Again, all that have tuned in, all that have put in their comments, all that have been engaging with each other, having some nice kind of a chat about the World Cup or whatever it is that people have been kind of talking about this evening. Like I said, enjoy your weekend, enjoy your time, everybody. Come on, you Spurs. We'll be looking for more World Cup games, and hopefully my predictions from the knockout rounds don't embarrass myself nearly as much. But everybody, that'll do for now, and I will be seeing you.